Let's see here. Good morning, everybody. Bobby Piton here. It is the 26th of April, just like that, a new week. Good morning, Susan. Good morning, Jules. And I'm just going to jump right into it because I have a really crazy day going. And so I'm going to go into, well, why don't I just start with this? Before I jump into a filing on a company, let's talk about what's on deck today. So everybody knows that Tesla is one of the darlings of the stock market the past few years. I think it's up over 400% in the past year alone. Tesla is more than just an auto company. Tesla owns, you can argue that Tesla is going to be a marketing company on wheels, kind of like Google. And they're using artificial intelligence in their vehicles to basically ultimately take their vehicles and have them be driven by computers versus yourself. So this company is kind of working on that technology. And they've been working on it for some time. They also are mapping out everything in this country, which I know I've raised concerns about this, from a national security perspective. If these vehicles are being made possibly and connected to the cloud and possibly being made in China. I'm not sure how many of their chips are coming from China. I know I've looked into some of the companies that make the chips for these Teslas, and they are in fact made in China. So I'm concerned about a chip within a chip in these vehicles that could be sending information back to China or another rogue state that literally outlines every single movement on U.S. soil by Americans. And not just outlines our movement as a nation, what we spend, how we spend money, what our bottlenecks on the economy are, where they can really cause a tremendous amount of pain. This is very disturbing, and I do think that the NSA, maybe the Space Force, I'm not sure what the mandate is for the Space Force, but this would be something that the Space Force should be able to block and prevent any aggregation services from foreign powers from stealing our information. And not just Americans, but worldwide. We got to remember, folks, we're in the middle of World War III. Whether or not people realize it, it's not the same with regards to armies and guns and bombs going off, but there is an ideological war taking place against political, economic, and religious liberties that we're all witnessing and living through right now. This is why we have so much angst in our society, and that's what we're in the middle of, folks. And the country that is leading the charge on the other side of the United States is most definitely China. And let's not sugarcoat it. That's what's happening. So I often wonder: is Elon Musk on Team America or is he on Team China? I don't have a clear answer, folks. I think there's a lot of people that don't really know. So with regards to this Maricopa, ruling today, I think it's at 11 o'clock. There's some news that came out that the judge would recuse himself. And so this is what these scummy Democrats like to do. Now, keep in mind, there's plenty of scummy Republicans too. So anyways, anybody out there who's a Democrat, you guys don't have a monopoly on these scummy people. We have a system which we definitely need to reform because it allows for obnoxious types of things like we just witnessed this weekend where, and I read something, Lawfare 101, which is great. This is by a friend of mine named Ron, also known as Code Monkey. He posted this, and I reshared it on my Telegram channel. So I don't want to take credit. It's not mine. It's he shared it. I'm not sure where he got it from. But how to force a judge recusal. 1, you don't like the judge assigned to your case? Step 1, retain a lawyer who had previously worked with the judge you dislike. Step 2, have your newly retained lawyer file some paperwork with the judge you dislike. Step 3, tell the judge to recuse himself because he now has a conflict of interest. So this is the playbook, folks. These people are sick. They do this crap all the time. And at the end of the day, the American people is going to find out the truth that transpired, and we're going to witness firsthand what the heck is going on. And, I'm not saying anything went wrong. The American people will decide. What I am saying is that I've been working on it for some time. I'm kind of, I joke around. I'm like, I got 2 jobs right now. I got my job full time doing this with Preactive, and I probably put in a good 50 hours a week there. and then I have another 30 plus hour job a week doing things with voter integrity, and that one's unpaid. so that one I'm doing because we are in the middle of the war. Somebody asked me a question. They said, Bobby, how do you do it? How do you keep up doing this 7 days, 6 days a week, 7 days a week? And I said, look, I'm working out of the comfort of my own home. I get to see my family and have my meals with my children every day. I said, and yes, I'm working a lot and I'm going 14, 16-hour days. But, if I was overseas deployed as an American soldier, what the heck? Think about that. I'm getting shot at. I may never see my kids again. I may not see them for 2 or 3 months at a time. So I'd rather be fighting a battle this way, personally, if I had a choice, versus being in the line of fire, and so forth. So my heart goes out to all these American soldiers who risk their life to go and defend freedom and defend our country. And so the least I can do is try to help behind the scenes in getting the information out, helping, identify, create phantom voter scores, not just for Arizona, but I'm going to be doing this nationwide, doing things to help improve our processes so that we have more fair and just elections. Folks, this isn't just about a conservative thing. I'm not a big believer in a uniparty. I think that we need a minimum of 2 healthy political parties. These scores that I'm creating will be able to be used by anybody, not just Republicans, not just Democrats, anybody who runs for office. The idea is to help identify what seems most suspect with regards to the data. And I've been working on this framework since I started in December. But I've come, after analyzing over 30 million voter records, I've gotten pretty good at it. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I've literally spent over 1,000 hours in the past 4 months working on this stuff. And when I say 1,000 hours, I'm not joking. I'm like, good thing I work. I don't tire, I guess, easily. So I've been able to I got a lot of nervous energy. So I'm excited to see what these things look like for Arizona, as well as my own home state. I'll be looking at Illinois and as well as Kane County. And don't think I forgot about Chicken Legs Burns. Kevin, I don't know if you're watching out there. I think it's Kevin Burns. Chicken Legs, don't worry about it. I got to take care of Arizona first, but I'm coming back for you and Jack. Jack Cunningham is the county clerk. I'm going to examine his races as well because I don't trust that these folks were doing things as well as they could have. How's that? I'm just going to say that. I don't know if anything's wrong. I just think we need to look at how well things were being managed and run and so forth, because I think there's a lot of things that are worth examining, not just here, but nationwide. This entire nation needs to do it. And the good thing is I had a wonderful dream today about how the American public could get involved with this data nationwide. It's super cool, but I'm not going to do it right now because I want to I'm giving you a little teaser, but I could tell you right now, it's a brilliant idea. I need to figure out how to capture this information for the benefit of the American people. But if we can get something going, I think it could be a game changer. I really do. I think it's going to be so hard for these corrupt politicians of any party to steal elections if we can truly pull this off. So I need to think through how to execute on it. But I've had the idea and the vision of what to do this morning. So I'm really excited about it. If you can't tell. So anyways, it's super. What's happening with Arizona? I'm gonna. You know what? You guys want to play this game? I'm just gonna keep hammering away with different ways in which you guys have been running this scam for decades. Okay? I'm gonna keep showing everybody, not just the American public. The whole world is gonna see how you've been running these scams. And, I don't know what those scams are. I don't know what it relates to. You guys can make your own decision as to where these little scams apply in your neck of the woods or where you live and so forth. So anyways, Tesla is going to report today. That's why I brought Tesla up. The Federal Reserve has a couple meetings the next couple days, I think tomorrow and Wednesday. So I'll be looking at that later. Bitcoin has bounced from 47,500. I think it's back at 53. Like I said, folks, it's my entertainment. I like to keep track of what's going on with Bitcoin. And once again, the concept of money being able to jump around like that, when the value of money tends to be tied to how big an economy is and the productivity of people, is pretty amazing. But once again, I do think that cryptocurrencies are a reflection of our distrust of government worldwide. This isn't just a U.S. phenomenon, folks. A lot of human beings across this planet do not trust their government, and rightfully so. They've let us down. Our religious institutions have let us down, and they've been compromised from within by a lot of really bad, evil people, to say the least. So I'm going to go to sharing my screen here. Give me 1 second. And I want to go over a company that reported today, and I will be going over the Tesla earnings today. So let me see here. I'm going to share my screen, and let me see here. Okay, hold on. And then we're going to go to this. And I know it's a little tricky when I do this, but I want to go to the, once again, folks, I talk about this all the time, sec.gov. You can go pull up any of these publicly traded companies. You have a right to see how they're doing in the stock market, which I highly encourage it. I think they should be teaching this to kids in grammar school, frankly. And in fact, at some point, I'd like to at least see if there's a way to get this going in high school. But grammar school would be great, around 5th or 6th grade, when kids are really, they got a little more time on their hands than high school. High school, other priorities take over. But in grammar school, it's like, make it our new sports. Why the hell we should be encouraging the development of entrepreneurship in this country by explaining all these great things about how companies work, how we can better organize our resources as a society, but not just that, to create value for all the people involved in business. A lot of people forget the fact that business is a social thing. It's a social exercise. And we socially try to make people, each other better off by creating better uses of our time and our skills to share with other people. Okay, so Albertsons, let's jump into it. Albertsons, I think, went private for a while and then went public again. This is a grocery, and you could see once again, for the fact that the government tries to tell us there's no inflation, which is bogus. We all know that that's not the case. Identical same-store sales grew at 11.8%. Now, in the grocery business, identical sales in any given year are usually like 1%, 2%, 3%. And so for them to grow that much, it kind of gives you an idea of how much inflation is truly flowing into the system, because, that wouldn't be the case. Now, the other argument, someone would say, Bobby, that's partially right, but, the restaurants were still not all online. Point taken. I'm well aware of the fact that a lot of the restaurants were still not online in the fourth quarter. And as a result, that's going to also boost grocery store sales. Okay, so it's a combination. But what I'm saying is splitting up what's the difference of grocery sales because people are eating out less and how much of it's inflation. That's what we really need to look at over time, especially if you have a lot of assets and you're worried about inflation kicking into the system. So identical sales were up 11.8. You can see that a lot of people are now shopping for food with their app. Now, obviously, this is off of a low base, which is why it looks so high. They ended up losing 37 cents a share, but they made 60 cents when they adjusted the income. So my guess is there might have been a non-cash charge of some sort because that's a 97-cent swing. Okay, EBITDA is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. So this is a number of how much cash they have for the quarter before they put money aside to keep and maintain their capital. That's if they were shrinking, this is a more important number. If you're growing your business, you shouldn't really be keying on this. You should be keying on other metrics. Okay, so identical sales growth, this is for the whole year. They were up 17%. Digital for the year was up 258. They reduced the overall debt. Wow, they did pay down a lot of debt. Reduced it to 1.5 versus 2.9. So they cut their debt in half year over year. That's pretty amazing. That's a very very solid performance here. So then the sales were 15.8 billion versus 15.4 a year ago. Okay. So gross margins increased 30 basis points. This may not seem like a big deal, folks, but it's a huge deal. In the grocery business, if you can boost your margins by 0.1%, just 10 bips, right here, excluding fuel. See, they raised it 10 bips. It's a big deal. So they raised it 10 bips. Obviously, they say that 20 basis points of this number was attributable to fuel, because they said excluding fuel, it went up by 10 bips. But obviously 2.9 to 28.9 versus 28.6 is 30 basis points. So you're talking about, hold on a second here, let me see here. You can see that 20 basis points of that 30 was fuel, is what it comes down to. So that was the oil prices doubling year over year that we talked about. SG&A increased to 30% of sales, up from 26.5%. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. That's a big jump. So I'm wondering how much of that they're blaming COVID for that. So for them to have to pass that through, I wonder how much they reverse from that when they get the money from taxpayers, right, with the government money and so forth. So interest expense dropped to 113 versus 140 million a year ago. So it fell by almost 30 million. They paid down a bunch of debt, which they took a charge on. Let me see. Other income. Let me see. Let's go to the balance sheet. Hold on a second. Or the income statement here. Okay, here we go. Let's see if it shows up here. Okay. Fourth quarter, gross profit was higher. SG&A, they said it jumped to 30%. You could see that number right there. It definitely jumped by 600 million more. So 632 million more than it was a year ago. For the year, this number, obviously, this is all of 2020. You can see that their expenses, they still managed to make a lot more money. So even though this fourth quarter had a huge jump year over year, over the course of 2020 versus 2019, they were able to better buffer it. So this loss, if you look, they had a loss in the fourth quarter. So there's a bunch of things that they put into here, okay, that led to this loss. But like I said they earned 60 cents excluding special items. So they had to have put a bunch of things in, because you can see, take a look at this, folks. So this is pretty interesting. From fourth quarter of 2019 versus fourth quarter of 2020, right? Look at their share count. So during this time, they bought back 116 million shares of stock. Do you see that? 580 down to 464. So it's amazing because they managed to buy back a lot of their stock during a time that they're showing they booked a loss, but clearly they didn't book a loss if you look at the results for the entire year. So the question is, how much of the loss was them trying to minimize their tax bill for the year? Because if things were really bad, the company wouldn't be buying back all this stock. It doesn't really jive, right? And you could see that the store count even went up. So they're not shrinking. They went up by 25 stores right here. 2277 minus 2252. So the number of stores went up. And let's look at their balance sheet. So their inventories, their overall assets year over year, 7 billion, 6.98 billion versus 5.7. So that went up year over year. Let's look at their current liabilities. So this went up by 900 million. This number went up by 1.2 billion. So their net current assets, or net working capital managed to go up by 300 million more. Wait, actually 5.7. So they had a negative working capital number, 5.7 minus 5.9, of almost $200 million a year ago. Today, they have a positive net working capital number of 150 million. That's almost, over a $300 million swing of year over year. So then you can see here, they bought back. You see that number? $1.9 billion worth of stock. They paid $1.9 billion to buy back stock right here. But so because this jumped from 25 million to actually not 1.9, you got to subtract out the 25.8. So, and plus whatever happened, this is the balance sheet as of February 27th, 2021. So this is year over year data. So year over year, they bought back, 1.8 billion. What is that? 25 minus that, so 26, $1.881 billion thereabouts is what it looks like. So that's pretty impressive. And then here's the cash flow. Look at this number, folks. This is explosive. So 2020, the amount of cash. Now you can see why they could afford to buy back all that damn stock. Look at their cash flow. Went from 1.9 billion to 3.9 billion. So their cash flow more than doubled. Once again, folks, I've said this before. How many people, how many people had their cash flow in their life double in the past year? Huh? Not that many. I'm just saying that, corporate America has been feasting on this at the expense of the public suffering from this whole lockdown. And companies such as Albertsons and all these other mega corporations, they were massive beneficiaries of this, and which is why I think, when they were allowed to operate at the expense of the average, small company in America, the average entrepreneurship class company of America, I think it's criminal. I think that there should be some type of adjustment that needs to be made. Maybe it needs to be a one-time surtax, almost like a war tax that happened, because you could say that COVID was a war declared on the health of the United States and our economy. And we had 10 million, we had actually almost 30 million people that lost their job initially, 25, 30 million. That number is now about 9 million. We're still in the hole, 9 million. But clearly there's been some companies that have prospered at a great expense, almost like war profiteering, at the expense of everybody else who's been suffering. And so I don't believe in that approach, that this has been allowed to happen. I think that there needs to be some adjustments, and I think things can be made retroactively, frankly. When the will of the American people wants to get it corrected, the American people will get it corrected. Hopefully they don't make the same mistakes that we made back in 2008 and 9, that financial crisis, which looks as though it was engineered. And I'll go into that in another clip sometime, maybe in the future. There's a tremendous amount of people that benefited from that crisis. The American public got the shaft, and we've doubled our national debt over that 8 years after 2008. And now in the past 2 years alone, the debt, we've added almost as much debt in 18 months, 2 years, as the United States had added between 1776 and 2000, almost $5.7 trillion. We only had $5.7 trillion of national debt, folks, in 2000, before George Bush and let China enter the World Trade Organization. Now keep in mind, I've seen conflicting numbers now. At first, it was 3 months to the day of September 11th that China entered the WTO. But then it looks as though it's been modified to 2 months to the day. So I'm not sure which one it is, but between 2 and 3 months after 9/11, 2001, when the planes hit and the world was paying attention to all of that, these sons of bitches went and signed in China into the World Trade Organization. We've had over $5 trillion of money flow out of this country. Who knows how much of it's being skimmed? I don't know. We should definitely audit it, right? I don't know if there's a skim going on, but all I know is that $5 trillion left there, another $7 trillion in wars. Next thing you know, we're up to real money, folks. $12 trillion. Give you an idea how much money that is. 90% of this country. I don't think we're 300 million people. I think we're lower than that. I think the numbers are off, but that's a whole nother conversation. But let's assume that there's 300 million Americans right now, not 330 like they say. Then 270 million Americans are worth less. Okay, we're worth about 270 million Americans are worth about $12 trillion. Those 270 million Americans are worth less than the 12 trillion we squandered on China, running deficits with China, trade deficits, and the wars in the Middle East. Think about that, folks. Can you imagine if someone said, hey, Bobby came to you and said, guys, I got a great idea. I want half of everything you have over the next 15 years, 20 years. And you'd be like, what? I want half your money. I'm going to take half your net worth. 270 million of you. Who wants to sign up for this? Be like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to send half of it to the Middle East and wars over there. A little more than half. We'll send $7 trillion there, and then we're going to do $5 trillion to China. And then while we're at it, we might as well send $1 trillion to Mexico too. We had $1 trillion of trade deficits to Mexico, which is amazing because the Mexican currency has lost 70% of its value in the past 20 years. So who got the $1 trillion? That's what I want to know. If the average Mexican is worse off by 70%, their money is worth 70% less, yet they had $1 trillion go into their economy. Who took the money? It's almost like that scene from The Big Lebowski where the guy's head's in the toilet. Where's the money, Lebowski? We need George Bush's head in the toilet. Where's the money, Bush? Where's the money? And same with Barry. These guys are both, they need to be investigated by the American people on a much deeper level than anybody wants to talk about right now. It is sickening, Jules, and this whole thing has been sickening. The more you dig, and folks, everything I'm saying, you could pull it all up in government reports. So unless you're telling me all the government reports are lying, this information is out there. I'm not making up any of it. I'm reading what is in the government reports of what they're saying they did with in the reports. What I don't know is how much of that money is, how much of those government reports are actually accurate. How much of those numbers, they just moved the decimal. They just, because we don't audit it. We don't audit the Fed. We should be auditing the Federal Reserve. We should be looking at the books. We should have receipts. We should, you know what? Hey, you rang up all these sales. You said we spend all this money in government. Let's see the damn offsetting tax returns for all the people that supposedly made this money that you said were paid out to them. We should have the IRS. We should be able to look at, okay, here are the tax returns, folks. Let's take a look at how much money was truly paid out for all this other stuff. And if we don't have the receipts, right, we spent $200 billion on defense. Okay, fine. Where's all the receipts? Hey, all the defense contractor, everybody else, did you guys file taxes for $200 billion worth of revenue? Oh, you didn't? How much you file? 190. There you go. There's the skim. If that was the case, it'd be $10 billion. So we need to look into this stuff and get to the bottom of it, because that's why there's such a big pushback for obviously for Arizona and elsewhere. So with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll be back at 4:00. And by the way, I just want to let you know, I do these two sessions, 7:45 in the morning and 4:00. I got an idea I'm just going to do one starting May 1st. May 1st is a Saturday, so starting next week. This will be my last week where I do two of these sessions, 7:45 and 4:00. I'm going to do one at lunchtime, around 11:30 Central Time. I'm just going to do one a day. And I'll probably try to keep it at about 30 minutes. And I got a great name for the show. I talked about it with my wife, but I figure I can probably have more content with regards to what's happening in the market throughout the day. And then when I kind of see what happens at the end of the day, I kind of like on a rolling 24-hour basis, kind of thread the things together at 11:30. So it'll be kind of like one session so that people don't have to worry about trying to keep track of two of these damn shows. It cuts my work a little bit as well, which is fine, because then, maybe I'll spend some time doing something else. But anyways, yeah, I am going to be on Stu Peters today. If you guys have time, Stu Peters at 10 a.m. today, Central Standard Time. He's going to interview me about Arizona. So please check him out. He is on Telegram. It's the real Stu Peters. He asked me to talk to him about what I'm working on with regards to Arizona. So I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much. God bless, and I'll see you in a little bit if you come back.